Psychological safety crutches, habits that seem helpful but hold you back. Psychological safety crutches are habits people develop to shield themselves from anxiety, stress, or emotional discomfort. While these behaviors might feel helpful, they often work against long term growth and healing. By masking deeper issues, these habits prevent individuals from confronting their feelings and building the resilience needed to manage challenges effectively. Over time, relying on these crutches can create cycles of avoidance, intensify feelings of vulnerability, and stall personal progress. True healing involves moving beyond these temporary fixes, facing the discomfort head on, and developing sustainable habits that foster emotional strength and self awareness. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward breaking free and embracing genuine growth. Disassociation, mentally disconnecting from one's surroundings or emotions to avoid facing anxiety provoking thoughts. Jake was overwhelmed at work, so he stared blankly at his computer screen for hours, barely noticing the emails piling up. It felt like the only way to make the pressure stop was to drift away mentally. Denial, refusing to acknowledge a problem or emotion, exists to escape its impact. Sophie's landlord told her the rent would increase next month, but she pretended it wasn't happening. I'll deal with it later, she thought, ignoring the looming stress of her strained budget, procrastination, delaying tasks or decisions to avoid the stress or anxiety associated with them. Liam had a project deadline the next day, but spent hours cleaning his desk instead of starting. He told himself he needed a perfect workspace, even though he knew he was stalling. Self medication, using substances like alcohol, drugs, or even food to numb or suppress anxiety. Maria had a tough day and poured herself a glass of wine as soon as she got home. Just one drink to unwind, she thought, but the bottle was empty by bedtime. Overworking, immersing oneself in work to avoid introspection or addressing emotional struggles. Connor stayed at the office until midnight, even though his work was done by 6. He didn't want to go home and face the silence that reminded him of his recent breakup. People pleasing, putting others' needs first as a way to feel needed and suppress one's own concerns. Emma agreed to take on her coworkers' tasks, even though she was already overwhelmed. She didn't want anyone to think she wasn't helpful, even at the expense of her own well being. Rumination, getting stuck in repetitive thoughts to give the illusion of control or resolution. After a tense meeting with her boss, Rachel replayed their conversation in her head all night. She hoped to find the perfect comeback she could never say in real life. Avoidance, evading potential stressors entirely, which can reinforce the fear of them. Sam avoided checking his bank account after an expensive weekend. It was easier to ignore it than to face the anxiety of seeing the balance. Excessive reassurance seeking, asking for constant validation to ease doubts or fears temporarily. Carly kept texting her best friend to ask if her latest idea for a party theme was good. Even after 5 confirmations, she still felt uneasy and kept asking. Perfectionism, over focusing on flawlessness to prevent criticism or failure that could trigger anxiety. Matt spent 3 hours rewriting a simple email, afraid it wouldn't sound professional enough. He finally sent it at 2 a.m., exhausted, but still unsure if it was good enough. Compulsive planning, over preparing as a way to feel secure and reduce uncertainty. Sophie made 5 different packing lists for her weekend trip, each one more detailed than the last. She was terrified she'd forget something, even though she'd packed the same items dozens of times before. Overconsumption of media,